Welcome to the podcast, Claim Your Excellent Life, with your host, Suzanne Kellner-Zinck, where she helps professional women learn how to be happy. Suzanne will teach you how to do this through building high self-esteem, relaxation and calm, and good, healthy relationships. Tune in every week as Suzanne shares effective strategies to help you claim your excellent life with happiness techniques, self-esteem building exercises, relationship tips, and relaxation information. Make sure to head over to dawningvisions.com to subscribe to the newsletter to receive your keys to happiness, as well as other useful free gifts for you.
In this episode of Claim Your Excellent Life, we are going to be speaking about understanding your true identity and the strength that brings to your life's aspirations. I don't know about you, but this subject is one that is very inspiring and motivating to myself, actually. And I hope you find this to be true for yourself as well. It's also very interesting. Discovering your true identity is all about discovering who you are intrinsically, at the level of your essence. And there's an explorative discovery process, both literally and figuratively, that really needs to occur for you to better understand who your true identity is. Because until you truly understand your own identity, it's going to be really difficult for you to create a life that's going to work for you, where you're going to feel happy, fulfilled, and at peace. Unfortunately, most people live a life of default, reacting to the things that show up in their lives. And that can be just falling into jobs because they show up and you may not really care about the job you're doing, or it may be that you get yourself into a relationship with somebody, not because you love them, but because they're there and available and you settle for them. I've worked with a lot of clients who have done that over the years. Or maybe you just have this feeling that you don't deserve what you really want in this world for some reason. So the truth of the matter is to have a really great life, you need to be authentic to who you are based on your values, your attitudes, which determine the things that truly matter to you. And these are things that come unconsciously and consciously in regards to our finances, our career, our health, our relationships, as I was saying. Now, for a long, long time, I don't know, a couple of decades anyway, I had this feeling inside myself that I just needed to get off the East Coast. I was raised in Mount Kisco, New York, which is very close to Chappaqua. I went to the Chappaqua schools, and it was a very, very nice area. I went to college in Boston, and then I ended up getting married to a gentleman who came from the Boston area and lived north of Boston for 35 years. Well, actually, that's not true. I ended up living north of Boston for 31 years after college. So altogether, I was there for 35 years, doubling the amount of time that I spent in my hometown. I was one of those very rare people who was brought home from the hospital when I was born to the home that was my home for my entire childhood till I left for college. So when I was a sophomore in college or somewhere around that time period, I got it in my head that I really wanted to come to the West Coast. Interestingly enough, I was engaged to a fellow all through college who I ended up breaking my engagement to, thanks to some input from my father. And yet, I didn't have the ability to move out here at that point. When I was 40 years old, I came out to California for some trainings, and that's when I really turned my life around, learning about neurolinguistic programming, and particularly because it's very quick action, transformative work that I can do with my clients. It's quicker than suggestive hypnosis, which is what most people think of when they think of hypnosis, though I do that as well. But it was really learning the NLP that brought my work to a much higher level of success in a much quicker period of time, And so I always identified this area of Southern California as the place where I really did turn my life around. I found my passion, my purpose here. And when I came out here, some people might have thought I was absolutely crazy. I didn't know anyone out here. I had a client who had some contacts, and one of them worked for 4 days, and then after that I was pretty much on my own. But it was a dream that I had. I wanted to be where there were people who were a lot more like-minded, where getting dressed up was just a matter of sandals or clogs and a dress. You didn't have to get all formally dressed up to do things, because people out here are really beach people. We live near the beach. Not to say that some people don't get dressed up sometimes, but what I am saying is that it's much more casual in the world of work, especially. There's a much more laid-back attitude out here. People smile a lot more, probably because of the sunshine. And it's just a very different energy than the hyperkinetic, I would say, overworked, distressed attitude that I lived in the Northeast, which was really not very good for me. Probably isn't that good for anybody, really. And I did that, not knowing where I was going to land, not knowing if it was going to work out, not knowing anything. I just went for it. Because I'd finally found a place that felt like home to me. It was a very long time in coming. And it's those kinds of awarenesses that we need to really be true to as we live our lives. Because who wants to live in a place where you don't feel happy or comfortable? I mean, seriously, do you want to live in a place where you're not happy or comfortable? And we do need to take some risk in our lives. And how about people who undergo cosmetic surgery? There are some people who undergo it because they don't like the look of their faces, and they decide that they need that change, and even afterwards, because they weren't happy before, they're still unhappy. There are other people who have accidents and they get deformed in certain ways, and they do fine, and they don't even need the surgery because they know who they are inside. Actually, Max Maltz wrote about this, as he was a plastic surgeon who noticed that patients who were disfigured in accidents would have their self-esteem restored after the reconstructive surgery. People who had suffered social abuse all their lives because of physical defects seemed to discover a new strength when the defects were changed by the surgery. But what was most intriguing to Maltz were those who didn't change, or about the others who acquired new faces, but went on wearing the same old personality. How to explain the reaction of people who insist that the surgery has made no difference whatsoever in their appearance? Every plastic surgeon has had this experience and has probably been as baffled by it as I was, he wrote in Psycho-Cybernetics. The people who were disfigured but didn't seem to care, and even wore their scars with pride, confused him. And it really demonstrated that there's proof that there was something more profound at work there. What he realized was that some people who consulted him for the cosmetic surgery really didn't need the surgery at all. The driving force behind much of our success, he realized, was self-image. It was less of a matter of what people look like, and far more what they thought they looked like. It was the image they held of themselves, not the image in the mirror, that determined how they felt, and as a result, how they acted. Maltz had seen in his patients something that psychologists and social scientists also see, that our identity, our image of ourselves, or how we fit into the world around us, is critical. What we think, feel, and how we behave. So as a result, identity also determines a large part of the outcomes of our lives. So if our identity determines a large part of the outcomes in our lives, well, this is a very important thing for us to better understand. Now, in my trip across country, I had some challenges. First of all, I didn't know where I was going to live. Second of all, I didn't know what I was going to do in terms of income production because obviously I was starting all over again with my business in a new locale, and I didn't know anybody here. So these were some pretty huge risks that I took, but I was more than happy to take the risk. Well, I'm a kind of risk-taking kind of woman anyway. But we need to take some risk based on who we are in order to allow ourselves to move to the next level of our lives. Because this is the deal. We're told always that you need to do well in school to get a good job, to be able to have certain things in life, like owning a home, having a car that works, and being able to afford a family. Mainly becoming what was generally known as a respected member of the community. So it's about doing, having, and being. However, this isn't the best way to live. How about we do it the opposite way? How about we be who we are, do those things that fit in with who we are being, and then have the things that come as a result of being and doing. The first focus on who it is that we want to become. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, who do you want to become? Instead of what you want to have. Now, I knew from a very early point in my life in the business world that I hated working in companies. I mean, seriously. I worked for a printer who was very sweet to me. I made all of $5 an hour out of college. That was with a degree in education, having graduated cum laude. My next job that I got of any consequence was as a receptionist in a law firm where, a few months into my work, I was called home because my dad had had a stroke and I needed to be there. And because he was a really big man in the community, there was going to be a reading of the will, there was going to be a funeral, and I needed to be there. And it didn't make sense for me to go back and forth in order to work. I just had to take it day by day. And though my bosses sent a beautiful big basket of fruit to my family's home, when I got back to work, they had no empathy for me whatsoever, and they fired me. I believe it was at that point that I realized I didn't want much to do with working for other people. There were other jobs along the way that didn't work for me. And part of it is because I have my own original take on things, and no matter what these people say in job interviews about being interested in your vision or your ideas, what I found to be true is they just want you to shut up and follow what they're doing. I'm not really good at shutting up about the way I feel or want things to go, and I'm even worse about following directives, especially if I find those directives are stupid or hinder the people with whom we're working. So I'm not really an employee type of person. And I needed to really be able to confront that situation. So I want you to ask yourself, are you doing work that fits who you are and the things that you care about? Because for me, even though when I was working out in the field and in healthcare, I was making very little money, I looked at it as paid internship. Thank God my ex, who I was married to at the time, was making a decent income with wonderful benefits. Because my income was so negligible. It was enough to pay for the gas that I needed to get to the job and maybe food for the house, and that was about it. It was really tiny pay. However, I'm glad I did those jobs because that's how I actually learned a lot of the more hands-on knowledge I needed in terms of working with people. And there were, well, honestly, there was one job that I had that I really liked in mental health. And after that, it all went downhill. Because again, I didn't agree with the philosophy of the programs I was working with, and I didn't appreciate the very negative way that my bosses were treating the clients that were taking part in the programs in which I worked. It was really, really bad. I really don't believe in blaming mentally ill people for having symptoms of mental illness nor feeling over-medicated when they're being over-medicated. It's really not the way that I work with people. My feeling is that the less meds, the better, and you help people aspire to be the best that they can be. So who are you, and what works for you and your personality and the quirks that you have? Very, very important. And then what are the gifts and talents that you have, the things that you really enjoy doing in your life? Like, I love giving presentations. I love reading and learning and doing research and creating all kinds of programs and writing books and delivering. Not so much speeches as workshops or interactive type programs. What do you enjoy doing? What could you be doing with your time that's more meaningful to you? What could you be doing in your time that's more fun for you? Because work doesn't need to be work. I learned from my dad, who was a dentist. He loved his job. He worked so hard to get there, and he absolutely loved it, that you can absolutely love what you do. Passion and purpose. You spend so many hours at work, you need to do something that really resonates with you. And the next thing you need to do is you need to uncover your current limitations regarding your identity. So many of my clients come to me telling me that there's no place for themselves in their own lives. They're like robots. They're just doing what they do day to day. There's no emotion involved. They don't have any passion or purpose. It's just one day, it's the same as another, and many of them have deadened their emotions, which means many of them feel really quite alone. And of course, all our social media, where we're not interacting with people eye to eye and soul to soul, means that we're feeling even more separated from people, not more together with people. So, what are those things that you're doing, both in your work and in your personal life, that are not working for you? Are you hanging out with a bunch of people who drag you down all the time? Complaining, bitching, wanting you to be there for them because they can't handle their own lives? They're psychic vampires that you need to release yourself from? Do you have people who are constantly bringing you into trauma and drama? If so, you really need to take space from these folks, because they will usurp not just your time, but your emotional energy, which makes it really difficult for you to actually live your own life. So, the bottom line here is for you to be in a place where you understand your true identity, the things that you truly enjoy doing, and creating a life based on those things so that you have a feeling of vibrancy and fulfillment and joyfulness. I thank you, as always, for taking your time to be with me. Until next time. If you have found the information that we have shared with you here on Claim Your Excellent Life to be helpful and interesting, please do us a favor of giving us a rating on iTunes. We hope it will be 5 stars, as well as a review. Doing both these acts will move the podcast up in the ratings on iTunes so more people will be able to find us. Also, please do us the favor of letting your friends and colleagues know about this podcast so they too can gain the knowledge that we're sharing here. We'd like as many people as possible to learn from what we have to give here. And we thank you for your time and effort in doing so.
Thank you for listening to the podcast, Claim Your Excellent Life, with your host, Suzanne Kellner-Zinck, where she helps professional women learn how to be happy. Suzanne teaches you how to do this through building high self-esteem, relaxation and calm, and good, healthy relationships. Tune in every week as Suzanne shares effective strategies to help you claim your excellent life with happiness techniques, self-esteem building exercises, relationship tips, and relaxation information. Make sure to head over to dawningvisions.com to subscribe to the newsletter to receive your keys to happiness, as well as other useful free gifts for you.